So thank you, Vani and Vasudev, for giving me this opportunity to speak a little on your parents as I knew them. See, my association with them began very early 1960s. As a 6-year-old, Vani's eldest sister, Sridevi, and I joined Sacred Heart Girls High School in the nursery section. And when we were about 10 years old, Sridevi invited me to visit her at her home in Marani's College. She told me that her mother was teaching chemistry and had a quarters in the campus. And it was mango harvesting time, and it was lovely when I visited the family. At this point, I must mention Vani had as yet not been born. Sri Devi, myself, and her younger sister Uma decided to play and climb the mango trees, which were heavily laden with fruit. After a short time, a very dignified lady in a crisp cotton sari walked towards us, and Sridevi said, "That is my mother, Rukmani." And that was the first time that I met Rukmani Krishnamurti. Lovely to behold, and such a winsome smile. I'll never forget this meeting. A little later, as we ate the mangoes on the tree and leapt about just like monkeys on that tree, a very striking gentleman in full white, he came smiling towards us. And this was Mr. Krishnamurti. He smiled, he spoke to us, and he looked at me with such kind eyes, and I'll never forget those kind eyes. It made me feel very happy. And this was my first meeting of Vani's parents. Later, I met Mr. Krishnamurti at a wedding where my left-handed son was being ridiculed loudly by a guest at the dining hall while eating. And suddenly there was this kind, firm voice behind us which intervened. And it was none other than Vani's father. He told the guests, "Please leave the child alone. He cannot help being left-handed." And that brought such a sweet smile onto this tearful little son of mine who was around 6 years old at that time. Mrs. Rukmani, I met many times at the School of Ancient Wisdom, where her talks were so impressive. Vani too, I met at the school, and we became good friends after that. After that, I attended all her talks also, and we were both very thrilled that I knew her elder sister. Jankiram, my husband, was a faculty at her meditation and study circle, and that was when I started going to all the programs there. At this stage, I just want to say and cut the whole story short by saying that I've enjoyed the books that your mother has written. I've bought quite a few from the School of Ancient Wisdom's library, and I wish you, Vani, and Vasudev many more years to continue the very good work that your parents have been doing. And it's wonderful that you've brought up this lovely 1 week where we are all becoming like one huge family. And I hope this goes on for a long time. Thank you so much, both of you.
Am I audible and clear?
Yes, Jankiram.
Thank you, Manthi.
Thank
That
you,
was
Manthi.
wonderful.
Welcome.
Good evening to Speaker of the Day, Narasimha Prabhu, Light of Self Foundation originator, Vani and Vasudev, and all the participants for giving me and Malati this opportunity. Now, I don't think I had that opportunity to meet Mr. Krishnamurti, as my memory goes, and my memory is normally good. But I had the privilege and the benefit of attending Rukmani Krishnamurti's program at the School of Ancient Wisdom, as well as interacting with her to clarify some of my doubts or, to get to know more from our own wisdom. But before I come to that, I want to give, because there are many of my friends who are not very familiar with meditation and study circle, and they are from other parts of the India. who are attending. So just to give a perspective, the magnitude of the spiritual teaching which has been provided by meditation and study circle is enormous. This is 41st year, so let us take 40 years have been completed, and one talk in English and one talk in Kannada every week, and some festival holidays. So let us say 50 talks in English and 50 talks in Kannada, and each talk is 1.5 hours. So 75 hours per year. So you can very well imagine 3,000 hours of English and 3,000 hours of talk in Kannada and spiritual topics. By various speakers, people have been given opportunity freely to benefit and improve their lives. Even imagining somebody attended about 25 to 30 or 50 talks over 5-6 years, it's tremendous input. But coming to Rukmini Krishnamurti, I have been a trainer myself, and many of you may be participants or have been faculty, so you know. What is the importance of faculty is to, one is to give a correct conceptual clarity, particularly when it comes to spiritual topics, and then make it as simple as possible for a general audience to assimilate. So in that way, I really benefited by attending the program, even though at that time she was quite old, but she was very clear in expression and very forthright and made it very lucid. For example, even though it's more than a decade ago or maybe 15 years ago I attended, but I would like to say, when we talk about veil or Maya or what it is, was made very clear. So we are Atman, or we are soul, which from the unmanifest, this is what Rukmini Krishnamurti told. I'm just repeating what I learned. And we come from the unmanifest to the manifest. So first we take Anandamaya Kosha. Then we take Vijnanamaya Kosha. Then we are taking Manonmaya Kosha. Then we take on Pranamaya Kosha. Then we take Linga Sarira, then the Annamaya Kosha. So it's very important, she stressed, that we should always remember our coming into manifestation. So people normally talk Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manonmaya Kosha, but that's incorrect. That's what she said. You should always remember how you took, and always keep it in mind that we are the immortal self, immortal soul. I am immortal. We should always remember that. Another one I benefited is with respect to karma. She used, actually in her book also, she has explained very well that it is what is called as a modifiable karma. See, prarabdha, you are not totally governed by prarabdha. It is alterable, modifiable. That is, even though people may say as purusartha, she made it very clear how you can change your direction, how you can bring a force and change your destination. And being a chemistry professor, she also said how you can alter with some adding chemical components, the final result. It is something like that. So I'm extremely thankful for my interactions, and I always remember her. I'm very happy for having got this opportunity. And on this occasion, I make one request also to Vani Vasudev and others involved in organizing these programs at Meditation and Study Circle. This pandemic has given us also some, a lot of disadvantages, but there has been some advantages like this online program where people from anywhere can also attend. And most of us now senior citizen like myself and Malati, we won't be able to also come if it is done in Jayanagar. Maybe similar for several others. So whenever situation returns to normalcy, if there is a way, this can be also organized, online program. If not every week, at least fortnightly or monthly once, it will be beneficial to all. That is one of my requests from on my behalf and Malte's behalf. I really take this opportunity. I'm sure Krishnamurti and Rukmani Krishnamurti must have moved on to very high realms. So I don't know, in whichever next birth or several births after, I may get an opportunity to meet them again. So with that, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my association with specifically Rukmani Krishnamurti and interaction and the way I learned from her, which I practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janki Ramji.
Thank you very much, Sri Jankiram and Srimati Malti, for your wonderful words of sharing interactions with Vani's parents, the founders of Meditation and Study Circle. And of course, now we come to the topic for today. And it's been a wonderful 7-day kind of retreat, 7-day festival on the topic, on the main theme, the festival of self-awareness. So what a better way to conclude the Jnana Yagna with a Purnahuti than from one of the masters, Prabhuji. So it is traditionally after every yajna there is a Purnahuti offered, and we consider the last day of this 7-day festival as a Purnahuti, that offer that brings in completeness to whatever has been going on till now. Prabhuji is my teacher, my philosopher, my guide, my mentor, and also my friend in all aspects of life. That I treat him as a friend doesn't put down the honor and respect any less for him, because one of the key things that I have taken from him is that he makes spirituality very light and joyful. That's one of the lessons I have taken, always guiding me. Of course, Vani too, both of us are under his guidance, not just on spiritual topics, but on several other matters of life, saying that we have to lead a life in this world, but lead it with the awareness of the self. So if there is any clarity on Atma Vichara, Advaita Vedanta, any aspects of spirituality, I owe this 100% to Prabhuji. And we have a great deal of respect and honor for such a lovely being, for being available to us all the time. In fact, I've been bugging him with so many questions, and he's ever so patient to clarify. Not just mine, that is the hallmark of a good teacher. He's the embodiment of patience to clarify any kind of question from any seeker. And the wonderful aspect is that he's modernity and tradition blended in one. He uses technology. Thousands of talks are available on YouTube, but adopts the traditional approach of Vedanta and Upanishadic teaching with full deal of clarity. Being an engineer himself, he brings in a scientific angle, some very, very logical models to explain very, very clearly the concepts of spirituality. Indeed, we are very, very fortunate to have him with us today for the concluding session of the festival, though of course the 41st year celebrations will go on right through February and March as a token of gratitude and remembrance and respect to the founders of Meditation and Study Circle. So today's topic on the Festival of Self-Awareness, Prabhuji will be dealing with celebrate life. So I would like to request Prabhuji to give us all the benefit of his wisdom and guidance and take over the platform. Prabhuji, yours.
Sir, you have to unmute your microphone.
Prabhuji, can you please unmute?
Yeah, he is muted.
Gayatri ji, are you there? I think Prabhuji is on mute.
I'm sure all of you enjoyed very enlightening talks by many esteemed speakers. Now today is the last day, as Vasuji says. Gnana Yajna, the last day is called Purnahuti. Thank you for inviting me for this session. First of all, what is festival? Festival is celebration. Celebration of life. Celebration of what we have. Celebration of our existence. That's festival. I'm sure all of you enjoy this festival and must be celebrating. How do you celebrate a festival? In India, we celebrate with a new dress, meeting friends, meeting relatives, puja, and also distributing sweets. It's a time for occasion. It's an occasion for get together. Express our happiness. How do you celebrate? Festival of self-awareness. Self-awareness is about being aware of our true self. It's a journey from finite self to infinite self. As rightly said by Mr. Vasuji, Gnana Yajna will end in Purnahuti. Ahuti means offering. So Purnahuti has two connotations. Purna Ahuti. Ahuti means offering. Okay. So in Yajna, normally in Yajna, at the end, you offer many things to the fire. You offer the Naivedyam, you offer cloth, you offer jewelry, you offer ghee, and pray to the consciousness in the form of fire to accept all the offering. So it is called Purna Ahuti. Purna means give up everything. Ahuti means offer. Purna Ahuti. So in Yajna, when we do Yajna, if you remember, Yajna, we offer something saying, let's say, take ghee and put it in the fire. And we say, Swaha, Indraya Swaha, Varunaya Swaha, Agnaye Swaha, Idam na mama. That means I'm offering all these things which doesn't belong to me. So the Purnahuti means offering everything what you have. Nothing is left. That's called Purnahuti. Nothing which belongs to you, you should hold. Everything what you think belongs to you, you have to offer. So this is Jnana Yajna. The fire is in Yajna when we do use the when we use the fire, that's symbolic. The symbol of consciousness. The consciousness is the fire. Awareness is the fire. Into the fire of awareness, we have to offer everything, Purna. Nothing should be left with us. That's called Purnahuti. So if you offer everything what you don't have, what you doesn't belong to you, then what is left with you? Then you are left with Purna. You are becoming Purna. You are the totality. Purna means totality. So offer everything which doesn't belong to you, which you have illusion of belonging, offer it to the fire. Then what remains is Purna. The self, which is Purna. That's what is meant by the shloka. Purna Madaha, Purna Midam, Purnat, Purna Mudachyate, Purnasya, Purna Madaya, Purna Meva Vashishyate. That is Purna. What is that is Purna? Awareness is Purna. Purna means fullness, completeness. There's no shortcoming. Purna Midam, the world which I see, the totality of the world which I see is nothing but Purna, Ishvara. Purna Madaha, Purna Midam. Okay. In between, I am there, a Jiva, which is Apurna. I am always feeling incomplete. Always there's a feeling of shortcoming. Always there is a sense of incompleteness. Purna Madaha, Brahman is Purna, awareness is Purna. Purna Midam, the world is Purna. World in the form of Ishvara is Purna. In between, I am Apurna. So for me, the Yajna, Jnana Yajna, takes me through Purnatva. Purnasya Purna Madaya, Purna Mevavashishyate. So from this Purna, the Purna of the world of name and form is removed, then also the fullness remains, awareness alone remains, Brahman. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. This is the mantra of Ishavasya Upanishad. So it's very appropriate that we conclude the Jnana Yajna of 7 days with the essential meaning of Purna Madaha, Purna Midam, Purnat, Purna Mudachyate, Purnasya, Purna Madaya, Purna Meva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. That is the essential meaning of Jnana Yajna is Purnahuti. Everything what doesn't belong to me, I have to give up. So why I am Apurna? Why I am feeling incomplete? Why I am Apurna? Because I have a sense of something belongs to me. Okay? That something belongs to me is an illusion. The body belongs to me, the mind belongs to me, intellect belongs to me, or I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. Burn this wrong idea of something belongs to me in the fire of knowledge, Atma Jnana. Then what remains is Purna, the self which is complete, shines by itself like the blazing fire of knowledge. Purnatma, that's myself. So the journey of Jivatma to Paramatma, Jivatma to Purnatma, Jivatma to Purna, from Apurnatva to Purnatva is called Jnana Yajna. In the Jnana Yajna, in normal Yajna, you are offered ghee, cloth, rice into the fire. In Jnana Yajna, offer your ignorance, totally burn it. If you offer your ignorance completely and burn it, that's called Purnahuti. And then you will shine with the wisdom of Jnana Yajna. That's called Yajna Phala, Atma Jnana, Jivan Mukti. So let us think about celebration. How do you celebrate? I'm sure all of you must be celebrating of this 7 days Jnana Yajna. Okay? Dance, song, music, new clothes, friends. How are you celebrating Jnana Yajna? I'm sure Vaniji and Vasudevji must be celebrating, dancing and singing these 7 days of Jnana Yajna. What is this celebration all about? What is the celebration of Jnana Yajna? I am reminded of a story of Sri Rabindranath Tagore. Sri Rabindranath Tagore, the great poet, he is a philosopher, he is a poet. He was trying to write his poem. A poet tries to see beauty everywhere. The poet looks for beauty in every object of creation. His heart sings with music. His heart sings with the poetry. Poetry starts flowing from a poet when he starts a beauty. Beauty in nature, beauty in existence. One night, Rabindranath Tagore was sailing in a houseboat. In a lake. In those days, they didn't have electric lamps. He had a candle light. He was struggling to write a poem, the beauty of the moon. The beauty of the full moon, he wanted to write a poem in the candle light. He was struggling, the words were not flowing. Suddenly there was a breeze. The candlelight blew, the candlelight went off. The candle blew out. In the darkness, the full moon was shining. The shining light of full moon entered into the cabin of the houseboat. Everything started shining in the light of the moon. Everywhere there's light, moonlight. The soothing light, the romantic light, the beautiful light of the moonlight started shining everywhere in the lake, on the trees, on the face of Sri Rabindranath Tagore. Suddenly, there was an inspiration from Rabindranath Tagore. What the hell I am doing? I am trying to think of the beauty of the moon in the candlelight. And when the candlelight is there, I am not able to see the moon. When the candlelight blows out, I am able to see the moon, the beauty of the moon. So brilliant. And the brilliant poetry started coming from him. Brilliant poetry. And that poetry is called Geetanjali. The poetry called Geetanjali, which got him the Nobel Prize, started flowing from him when that candlelight went out, blew out. Then the moonlight started showing. The poetry starts coming. The poet starts singing. The beauty of the nature. See, Rabindranath Tagore was trying to think of the beauty of the moon sitting in an artificial light, a candlelight. You have to see the moon. Then only you can see the beauty. Not in the candlelight. Candlelight, you have to imagine the beauty. In a way, it is symbolic of our life also. What are we trying to do? We are nothing but a blazing light. We are the blazing light of Atma Jyoti, the light of the self, light of awareness. And that light we are trying to see in a candlelight called ego. How can you see the blazing light of Atma Jyoti in the candlelight called ego? You are the light. You are the light of the self, Atma Jyoti, the blazing light. Antar Jyoti, Bahir Jyoti, Pratyak Jyoti, Paratpara. Jyotireva Jyoti Swayam Jyoti Atma Jyoti Shivasmiham. This is the teaching of Sri Shankaracharya in Brahmadnana Valimala. This is the teaching in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Jyotir Brahmana. You are the light. You are the light. Bahir Jyotihi. You are the light which lights up the sun. Awareness is the light which lights up the sun. Sunlight is brightest, but without awareness you cannot see this. Nobody can see the sun. Awareness lights up the sun. You are the Bahir Jyotihi. Antar Jyotihi. When you close your eyes, the outer world is disappeared. The mental world lights up. The thoughts, feelings, emotions, anger, jealousy, hatred, love, all these light up. Where is the light? There's no tube light, there's no flashlight, there's no candle light. The inner light of Atma Jyoti lights it up. Awareness. Antar Jyotihi. Pratyak Jyotihi. In deep sleep, there's no world, there's no thoughts, there's no feelings, there's no emotion, but awareness lights up. Awareness lights up absence of all objects, absence of all activities. That awareness is Pratyak Jyoti. You are the Paratpara, the light of all lights, supreme light, Paratpara, Atma Jyoti. Jyotireva Jyotihi, that Swayam Jyoti, it's self-illuminating light. We are trying to find that self-illuminating light, illuminated light with a candle light called ego. How can you find that? How can a candle light called ego light up the sun? What a foolishness we are doing. We have to blow out that candle light. The ego has to disappear. Then the blazing light of Atma Jyoti will shine. What is Atma Jyoti? Atma Jyoti is the light of self-awareness. I am that infinite self. That is covered by a candle light called ego. What is ego? I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. So that candle light has to blow out. Then the blazing light of Atma Jyoti will shine. You will recognize that you are the light of the self, Atma Jyoti. Light of the self is nothing but the divine light, Brahma Jyoti. You are the light of peace, happiness, bliss, and love. That light you are. Why are you searching for that light in a candlelight called ego? Ego cannot show the sun. The candle cannot show the sun. The candlelight, in case of Sri Rabindranath Tagore, blocked the moonlight. When the candlelight blew out, the moonlight started shining. So the candlelight called ego has to blow out. How? Nanembudu, nanalla, ideha, manabuddhi, nanalla, sachidanandatma, Shivananu nani, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, this is the ego. I'm the body, I'm the mind, I'm the intellect. That ego has to be given as a Purna Ahuti. Then you will become Purna. Then you recognize you are Purna. The candlelight has to blow out to see the moonlight. The candlelight called ego has to blow out to recognize the blazing light of Atma Jyoti. Atma Jyoti is there all the time. Okay, but the candlelight is covering. How? How can a candlelight cover the sunlight? It is like our two fingers. If we close our eyes, we cannot see the world. Two little fingers are covering the entire world. So the candlelight appears to be covering the blazing light of awareness. Recognize the true light by blowing out the ego. We are an ocean of bliss, Ananda Sagara. That is self. So what is Festival of Self-Awareness? It's about celebration. Is it dance? Is it music? Is it song? I don't know what all Vasuji and Vaniji have arranged, dance, song, music. But for me, real celebration is gaining back our freedom. Finding out who am I, who are we, going back to our roots, discovering our real nature, what we truly are is freedom. All of us, year after year, celebrate the freedom of our country, India Independence Day. The real celebration for us is our freedom from the ego. Real freedom, real Independence Day is the day when we celebrate the freedom from the shadow called ego. That is celebration. How do you celebrate the festival of self-awareness? Let us think over. Now, in a festival, we celebrate, we distribute sweets, we meet friends, okay? We have variety of celebrations, variety of in a festival. Of course, some people celebrate on New Year's Day with alcohol, okay? They light up the crackers, okay? So many things can be done as a celebration. But what is real celebration of the self-awareness? Now, what do we celebrate? Please let us understand the word called celebration. What is the meaning of celebration? Celebration, is it a dance is a celebration? Is it a song is a celebration? Is giving sweet is a celebration? No, that's the expression. Celebration and expression we should not confuse. So this is celebration time. Let us have a party. Let us booze. That's the expression. What is celebration? Celebration is the joy which we celebration is the celebration of joy which we are experiencing. The inner joy, the overflowing joy is what we are experiencing. That is expressed in terms of sweets. That's expressed in terms of meeting friends. That's expressed in terms of meeting relatives. So inner joy is the real celebration. So what is joy? What is happiness? All of us are programmed for seeking happiness and joy. We don't want suffering in life. Every occasion, every situation, we are looking for happiness. That happiness is called by various names. When it's related to sense organs, it's called pleasure. I smell a cup of the aroma of a tea, aroma of a coffee. The smell is very pleasant. That pleasant smell is happiness. That's why we seek coffee. We don't seek anything which gives us suffering. We want to get rid of what is suffering. All of us are programmed for seeking happiness. Pleasure is what we seek. Pleasure through sense organs. Touch something, you'll enjoy. You have to see the women going to sari shop. Okay? Everything in the showcase will be kept on the table. Every sari is touched and felt. Okay? See, sight, touch, feel. Wow, that's called window shopping. And after all opening of all the saris in the showroom, you'll say these saris are not good and go to another shop to do touch and feel other saris. So we enjoy touch and feel and sensation. That's called pleasure. Okay. The pleasure is related to sense organs. Then we know something called happiness and unhappiness. Happiness and unhappiness is related to the mind. So physical touch, contact with the objects is called pleasure. The mental touch with the contact with the objects is called happiness and unhappiness. Mentally, I may not go anywhere. Mentally, I may enjoy a scene. Oh, I went that place. What a wonderful place. The mental contact is made, no physical contact. That mental contact gives me happiness, momentary. So mental contact is called happiness and physical contact is called pleasure. And we are pleasure-seeking animals. We are happiness-seeking animals. We are programmed for happiness and pleasure. Wherever there is pleasure and happiness, we start hunting for that. While animals hunt for food, we hunt for happiness in the form of pleasure and happiness in the world. Pleasure in the form of sense organs, sense contacts, and happiness in the form of mental contacts. But unfortunately for us, the pleasure is always accompanied by pain, and happiness is always accompanied by unhappiness. How? What I call as pleasant, that will be momentary. The contact, how long you can hold a cup of coffee in your mouth. You'll enjoy that. After some time, the effect will fade off. Then again, you want that cup of coffee. Again, the smell of aroma of that will draw you. It is a momentary pleasure. Then after the momentary pleasure wears off, you have a pain. Not real pain, but it's a pain. The pleasure and pain are duality. They appear together. Happiness, what you call as happiness, also is accompanied by unhappiness. See, what a nice day I enjoyed with my friends when I was young. Can you see that? Along that happiness of your recollection, you are unhappy today. That's what you're saying. That time is more happy. Now I am unhappy. That's what you're trying to say. Happiness and unhappiness come together. We don't want unhappiness. We don't want pain. We want pleasure, pure. But that pure pleasure and pure happiness is not available in the world. That's not manufactured in the world. Then what to do? There is something called bliss, supreme bliss, above the pleasure and pain, above the happiness and unhappiness. That is the nature of yourself, your reality. The inner bliss, the bliss of the self is eternal. It does not come and go. It's not temporary. And the bliss of the self is not duality. Pleasure has a duality called pain. Happiness has a duality called unhappiness. Whereas bliss, there's no counterpart. It's non-dual. So that bliss is your nature. Recognizing that bliss as my nature is called Atmadnana. That is called self-awareness. And that is the festival of self-awareness. Recognizing who am I? I am blissful. My nature is bliss. I am Ananda Surupa, Purnananda Surupa, Purnoham. That recognition is the festival of self-awareness. But for that, you have to give a sacrifice, ahuti. You have to give total offering of your ignorance. If you keep a little bit ignorance also, you'll not get it. So that's called Purna Ahuti. That's why in Yajna, you have to give Purna Ahuti. You should not keep anything. The total ignorance has to be offered in the fire of knowledge, blazing fire. So there are two types of fire. The fire of desire and fire of knowledge, Jnana. Jnana Agni and Kama Agni. So the pleasure and happiness, hunting for pleasure and happiness is because of the desire we have. I want to be happy. I want to get happiness. I want pleasant things. The desire is like a fire. The fire of desire is called Kamagni. The Kamagni cannot be the moment you fulfill this desire, the Kamagni will blaze. It will seek more. I want more. I want more. Dil mange more. Dil mange more. I want more. Now what happens? Your desires will increase. Your desires will never end. What is the problem of desire? The desire gives rise to action, because nobody, for fulfillment of any desire, you have to perform actions. You have to work. If you want a Maruti car, you want to work for 2 years for EMI. If you want a BMW car, you only have to work for 20 years BMI. via EMI. So for fulfilling desires, you have to work hard. Okay, and the happiness you get is temporary. So you have to work a lot to get a temporary happiness. Is it a good bargain? And the moment you get happiness, again, unhappiness will come. Again, you have to work. It's a cycle. Desire, action, result, again, impression, desire, action, impression. This cycle, we get into this cycle. This cycle is called cycle of karma, performing actions to get a result. And this is called Kamagni, fire of desire. It will burn us, it will tire us, we'll get burnt out in the fire of desire. Then there is other fire which is called Gnanagni, the fire of knowledge, fire of wisdom. Really understanding the nature of desire, nature of happiness, and coming out of this Kamagni and offering my ignorance in the fire of knowledge is called Gnanagni. The two fires, Kamagni and Gnanagni. The festival of self-awareness is about Gnanagni. Offer your ignorance in that Gnanagni. Become free. So you have to understand what is this ignorance. You have to understand the mechanism of happiness. All of us are programmed for happiness. When I want something in life, okay, that's a desire. Why that I want comes because I am wanting. When I am wanting, the I am is wanting. That means there's a deficiency in me. I want something to fulfill the desire. There is a shortcoming in me. There's a deficiency in me. I want. The want is there in me. And that leads to desire. Because I don't accept that wanting. I don't accept that shortcoming in me. I want to get rid of the shortcoming. So why this I want is coming? The I want is coming because of I am. So whenever I speak of I am, I associate with the I am with the body, I am with the mind, I am with the intellect. The body is limited in nature. The mind has a limited experiences and intellect has a limited knowledge. So I mix up that I am with the body, mind and intellect, which is of limitation, which is a limitation. It is a suffocation because I am, what I am is really infinite consciousness. I stands for consciousness and am stands for existence. The I am is pointing to existence and consciousness, which is infinite. That I am, when it associates with the manifest body and mind, it feels limited. The unmanifest I am, I am which is unconditioned is infinite. That unconditioned I am is real myself, real my nature. That's the Atma. When I condition that I am with the body, mind, intellect, it's called Jiva. In reality, we have Jivatma, Jiva plus Atma. Jiva is the ego and Atma is the pure consciousness. So we forget that we are Atma and we become Jiva. That is the suffering of life. So if you are really Jiva, then there's no way. Actually, Jiva has forgotten the Atma, not Jiva has been, not that Atma has become Jiva. Atma has taken the form of Jiva and forgotten its true nature. So that's why the saving for us is to recognize our true nature and become free. Now the pleasure and pain, or pleasure and happiness, we have to understand the mechanism of this. The mechanism of pleasure, mechanism of happiness is, I want, there's a shortcoming because I am feeling limited. I want to fill up my limitedness from the outer objects. How can you fill up the whole inside, the shortcoming inside with the outer objects? A bigger car, bigger vehicle, promotion, power cannot remove the deficiency in you. The gap is inside. The problem is inside. The problem inside can be only removed through Gnana. true nature. But we try to fill up our life with objects, life with relationships, life with the variety of circumstances which can give us happiness. Let us understand the mechanism of happiness. When I want a jalebi, a sweet, my mind gets agitated. I want jalebi, I want jalebi. Thoughts will come. And when you place the jalebi in your mouth, the mind will become silent for some time. When the mind becomes silent for some time, the bliss of the self, bliss of the infinite self is reflected in the mind. The mind is silent, it reflects the bliss of self, like a mirror reflects the sunlight. The moment mind comes out of that blissful silence or peace, the mind gets agitated again. So it says, I want jalebi, because jalebi gave me happiness. That reflection of Atma on the silent mind is called happiness. Reflection of Atma in the silent mind is called pleasure, momentarily. Like the water settles down momentarily, the reflection of sunlight is there in water, then water starts moving again, the reflection gets blurred. Like the reflection of Atma gets blurred the moment the mind starts agitating. So now this agitation of the mind is called suffering. Agitation of mind is called unhappiness. Agitation of mind is called pain. The happiness of the happiness is actually the silent state of the mind when the bliss of the self is reflected. But the problem with the mind is the mind cannot recognize the self. Mind will associate the happiness with the object rather than the self. So mind does not know the deep inside me, there's an ocean of bliss. So it is actually thinking that happiness which you bought is because of object, because of jalebi, eating jalebi. Then it starts seeking the object rather than seeking the source of happiness. The source of happiness is your true nature, Atma. You've forgotten that. So the mind is continuously looking for happiness outside, whereas the real happiness is in Atma. The source of happiness is you, not the object. We are like an animal in the Himalayan area. It's called Kasturi Mraga, a deer. The Kasturi Mraga has a fragrance in its stomach. It's very fragrant. The Kasturi is a very fragrant, it's a very fragrant material. The Kasturi Mraga is attracted by the fragrance. It keeps on looking for a fragrance all around Himalayas. In the process, it forgets to eat food. It dies out of hunger without recognizing that fragrance is there in its stomach. Same way, the Atmadna, the bliss of the self is there in us. The fragrance is there. We are not able to recognize the fragrance, and we are looking for the fragrance in the objects of the world, power, position, money, external objects where there is no happiness. So this is our suffering. Now, once you understand the mechanism of happiness, we'll understand how to be happy, how to recognize, how to be happy all the time. There is a story of a Sufi. The Sufi seems to be always singing, dancing, happy all the time. People have seen the Sufi all the time happy. People have seen the Sufi going through a lot of difficulties in life. Some days he didn't have food to eat also. Sometimes people throw stones at him. But this Sufi is always happy. Then people ask the Sufi, what makes you happy all the time? The Sufi asks the question, what makes you happy? What makes you happy? What makes you happy? What makes us happy? What makes us happy is when we get objects in life which we like. What we like, if the outcome is there, whether it's exam result or food or vehicle, if we get what we want in life, we are happy. So, what is the meaning of happiness? When you get something what you want, your mind accepts it. The moment your mind accepts it, mind becomes silent. In that silence, self is shining as happiness. The ananda of the self is shining as happiness. The momentary mind silent becomes silent. So accepting something in life makes us happy. That is the key. So Sufi said, I accept everything in life. I'm happy. If there's sorrow, I accept. If there's joy, if there's happy, if there's food, I'll accept. If there's no food, I'll accept. So I'm happy all the time. Very simple secret. So the secret of eternal happiness is accepting everything in life as it comes. Leading a choiceless life, accepting life as it comes. Sorrow or joy, success or failure, can we accept it? Then you are happy all the time. Then you are established in your true nature as self. Is that easy? It's not that simple. Look at this coin. The coin has two sides. The two sides of the coin, can we separate out? I cannot separate out the two sides. Then there's no coin. Like that, life, everything is duality. They are a package deal. They come as the two sides of the coin. Happiness will come with unhappiness, other side. Happiness is one side, unhappiness is another side. Life is one side and death is another side. Life and death will come as a package deal. Pain and pleasure will come as a package deal. Success and failure will come as a package deal. They're all two sides of a coin. But we want only success. We want only happiness. We are choosing one side of the coin. We want to ignore the other side of the coin. But nature, the Prakriti, will give you the whole coin. It will not give you one side of the coin. The moment you accept one coin, one side, other will come. If you accept life, the death will come. So we celebrate. We are joyful when the child is born because we accept the birth. We mourn. We cry when somebody dies because we reject death. We should learn birth and death are the two sides of the same coin. Accept both. Accept success and failure as two sides of the coin. Accept life choicelessly. Then what will happen? You go beyond the duality. Duality of success and failure, happiness and unhappiness. The one who is witnessing this, one who is seer of this, Atma is beyond. Then you are getting established in Atma. The moment you choose, you become Jiva. Because you are identifying one part of life. If you accept life as totality, you are free from the duality of life. Then you are filled with bliss. You are bliss. So the mantra is very simple. You have chanted so many times, mantra, mantra, mantra. Millions of times you have chanted mantra. Simple mantra you chant. Accept life as it comes. Then you find God, which is the self. Let go what you can't control. There are some things in life you can control. There are some things in life you cannot control. Try to change what you can. Accept what you can't. And both the outcomes, what you can and what you can't, accept in totality. Take life as a package deal, a complete coin with two sides. Then you will be free. And you have to ask your question, for whom I am living my life? Most of the time, always we lead our life based on what others think of me. Our decisions, our judgments, our actions, our efforts are for pleasing the other. You have to understand the word called self-consciousness. When people go onto the stage, they're afraid. It's called stage fear. The scientists have done a study. They have found out most fearful thing for anybody on the earth After death is stage fear. Death is most fearful. After that, next to that is stage fear. Why? In the stage when you go, and start speaking, what people will think of me. Not one person, 100 people are start thinking of me. So now you start thinking what others think of me, and then you become self-conscious. Self-conscious is ego. Then you get into stress, the fear. The journey of self-aware, you have to have a journey from self-consciousness to self-awareness. Where you have to recognize, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect. The body, mind, and intellect is recognized by society. But real I am is not visible. Real I am is infinite. So if from self-consciousness you have to move to self-awareness, that is the journey. That is the festival. So there is a small story about celebration or happiness. Mullah Nasruddin was going on a street. Mullah Nasruddin is the philosopher in the Middle East. He meets this man, very sad, very sorrow. He's a middle-aged man. Okay. Looking at the man itself, you can find from a distance that he is very unhappy. Looks like a rich person. With his dress, he looks very rich person. And he's carrying a bag which is very closely protecting the bag. Looks like bag is containing something very valuable, very important. So Mullah asks him, why are you sorry? Why are you feeling so miserable? The man says, you can see, I'm a very rich man. I'm a very successful man. All my life, I've earned money. I have enough money. I have enough servants. I have a big house. I have everything in life. I don't have happiness. I'm looking for happiness. So I'm traveling all over the world carrying this money, bag of money, trying to get happiness. Mullah looks at that man, immediately catches hold of his bag, snatches his bag, and starts running. The man, he's frightened because his whole life earning is there in the bag. And he starts chasing Mullah. Mullah is very fast in running. He runs very fast. And he knows the place. He knows the forest. He runs everywhere. The man is tired. Then Mullah keeps the bag on the road. Then hides behind. The man comes there. Looks at the bag. Catches hold of the bag. He is bursting in joy. Wow, he is so happy now. Mullah comes out and says, see how happy you are. You found your happiness. What are you doing in life? We are actually, the happiness is there in the man itself, but he is looking for happiness elsewhere. The moment he lost something and he gained back, he is happy. That means happiness was there in him. Happiness is our nature. Happiness doesn't come from objects. We have to discover our happiness. There is a story of a professor. The professor comes to a class and gives a test to students. He gives a paper, okay, and says, see what is there in the paper and write an answer. What is there in the paper? One piece of paper. All the students open the paper. They're surprised there's nothing in the paper. But there's some small black dot in the paper. Everybody writes the answer. There's a black dot in the paper. Then the professor asks, what did you write? All of you have written a black dot in the paper. The black dot is so small. What you didn't write is the white paper, which is so big. In the whole of this thing, one small black dot is there. You're only noticing small black dot. You're not recognizing the white paper. Life is like that. Our unhappiness, our sorrow, or pain and joy is very, very small dot in the canvas of life. But we constantly hanker, constantly look for that small dot, forgetting the bigger picture. The bigger picture is the Atma, self, which is infinite, blissful. We are constantly harping on that small dot, black dot. And that's where we suffer. Why we are doing that? We have to understand our nature. In earlier days, when some people go to the elders or sages, they will bless. Shatayur Bhava, live for 100 years. Okay? I often wonder, living for 100 years is a curse or a blessing. Imagine if the today's inflation, to live 100 years, how much money you need at bank balance? Imagine if you live for 100 years, what will happen to your body or your sense organs? You will be so weak. You will be dependent on others. Is living for 100 years is a blessing or a curse? I often wonder. Then I realized the real blessing of Shatayur Bhava, live for 100 years. Live for 100 years does not mean you live for 100 physical years. Live 100%. 100% life if you live, your life is fulfilled. Sri Shankaracharya lived for only 38 years. Swami Vivekananda lived for 38 years, 40 years. Life is short, but the life was complete. Purnatva. Purnatva. You have to have that completeness in life. It's not like life of living for 100 years physically. Every minute you live, can you live for 100%? Is it possible? 100% of minute, every minute you can live. Is it possible? 100% life. So Shatayur Bhava means have 100% life every minute. Then it doesn't matter when the death will come. How can we live 100% every minute? Is it possible? It is possible because you only have lived that 100%. When, remember your life as a child. You are bubbling joy. You are bubbling with energy. Every small thing will make you happy. You may cry, but you cry fully, totally. Your life was 100% when you are a child. You didn't worry about the future and you didn't worry about the past because there was no past anyway. As a child, children are a bundle of joy because for them, there's no concept of future, there's no concept of past, there's only the present. This minute. The life is in this moment. That's why the children are bubbling with joy. That's why the children are bursting with the energy. They are living their life 100%. That's why we say children are God. They are God. Because the God is bliss. The God is joy. God is happiness. God is energy. Children are blissful. The bliss is the blessing. That bliss is there all the time. The blessing is there all the time. The bliss is the blessing, only blessing we have got. But why our life has become a mess? From bliss to mess. What happened to us when from childhood to we came to youth, and from youth to adulthood, from adulthood to old age, from bliss to mess? What is our journey? This bliss to mess is called samsara, suffering. Why the life has become bliss to mess? Please tell me. Look at a child. Child has no past. It doesn't know any past. Child does not know future. Child has only the present. And the present is utilized fully. How does the child utilize present fully? In a playful way. For the child, everything is a play. Joy. The child plays, when the child plays the game, It is fully involved in the game. It's not that it is playing as a game. Have you seen the children taking a walking stick of the grandfather and riding on the walking stick? This is a horse they ride. They really enjoy that. And they think that really it's horse. But still a play. And they enjoy that moment. They don't think it's imagination. They think it's a real horse. The girl children, they cook food. The small vessels, they cook food and they serve people. Is the food nice? Did you enjoy it? They really experience that imagination. And it's all play. From a children, they have grown up. For us, the life has become very serious. The game of life has become very serious. You can see the cricket match or football match. People will kill each other for that match. What is a game which is for fun? It has become very serious life and death question. The life is a game. It's a play, lila. That have become very serious. For children will take a stick and ride as a horse. Their toy is that they use the toy and imagine it's horse. We have bigger toys, the car, the vehicle, all this. We imagine so many things, but we make it real. We forget it's a play. Children play, imagine play and forget it. But whereas we imagine and play and stick to it, that's our suffering. From childhood to he goes to school. School, he thinks, if I get a job, I'll be happy. Okay. So then he gets a job. Then he's not happy because he didn't get the right type of job. So what's happening to us? We are constantly looking for happiness in the future, forgetting about the bliss of the present moment. So what is happening to us? We are looking for happiness as an event in the world, as a possibility in the world, as a job, as a car, or a promotion. We are looking for an opportunity to be happy. It has become an event. That's what we call as happiness. Happiness we assume the event. But happiness is really the reflection of our inner self, Atma. And what is the mechanism of happiness? When the mind becomes silent, there is happiness. That mind becoming silent is called Shanti. So the mind has to become peaceful, Shanti, and then happiness is reflected. So what we are really looking for is the peace, Shanti of the mind, the silence of the mind. That's why all our Veda mantras end up with Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The peace. Because happiness is what you seek as an object in the world, but peace is what is the inner reality for us. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Because inner peace is what we are seeking. But we are seeking as a happiness which is not available to us. So we are too much burdened with the thoughts of future and thoughts of past. Thoughts of past is regret and thoughts of future is about worry, hope. In reality, we miss the life. Life is always in the present moment. And life in the present moment is always a celebration. Look at the children, you understand what is celebration. They enjoy. Life is in the present moment. It's happening. Can we learn to be in the present moment, peaceful, not worrying about the future, not worrying about the past? And that state is called Atmadnana, state of Gnani. It's called Sahaja Samadhi. Not the future, not the past, but the present. So Gnani is also like a child. But the difference between a Gnani and child is Gnani, child is also in the present moment. Gnani is also in the present moment. But Gnani knows his true nature as bliss. The child does not know. Child is innocent. That's why it loses its innocence and it grows. Whereas Gnani knows, I am awareness, I am blissful. That's why Gnani does not lose its bliss. It's eternal bliss. So there is a, how do we find this eternal bliss? I heard the story of Buddha. Buddha taught the Lotus Sutra. Lotus Sutra means lotus is the Kamala, the lotus flower. So he taught a teaching called Lotus Sutra. Then somebody asked him, what is enlightenment? Then Buddha held a flower, looked at the flower. Silently he was looking at the flower for quite some time. Then suddenly, Mahakashyapa, one of the disciples of Buddha, got the realization. He started smiling. So Buddha looking at the flower was a symbolic. It was a teaching. What is enlightenment is, the flower is an object. I am the subject, it's seer. The subject and object, when they become one, the duality disappears. There is awareness. That awareness is nirvana. That awareness is moksha. We have to transcend the subject and object. So how do you transcend the subject and object? In the silence. Now, don't be under the impression this silence is silence of the mind. So mind will be silent momentarily. If you are thirsty, if you get water, mind will become silent. That's a temporary silence. When we speak of silence, we are not speaking of the silence of the mind, temporary silence of the mind. We are speaking of the silence which is beyond the mind, stillness. So you have to transcend the mind. Mind will be silent for some time and it will start becoming active. That's what we try to do in meditation. We try to make the mind silent. Then again the mind starts moving. We should go beyond the mind. That's called no mind state. No mind state is called enlightenment. No mind state is called liberation. No mind state is called mukti. And that is called Purnahuti, real offering. So mind has to become no mind. When it can become no mind, when the ignorance is dropped, ignorance of the self. So this teaching is, the seeker is the sought. The subject is the subject and object are one in the non-dual realization. Can our life be a celebration moment to moment? Not if you are looking for happiness from the objects of the world. Not if you are looking for happiness from pleasure from the objects of the world. If you are blissful, your life is a celebration. For that you have to go from mind to no mind. You have to go recognize yourself. So that self-recognition is called Atma-Dnana. Now don't be under the impression that self is limited to this body. The self is the totality of the self. The whole existence, the entirety. Self of myself is Brahman, the totality. The self of myself, myself is the self of mountain, the self of the river, the self of all living beings. The one in all in one has to be recognized. That is the self. Just recognizing itself in me is not sufficient. Recognizing itself in me is called recognizing the Sakshi, the witness. Then you have to recognize that witness is the presence in everywhere, the totality of existence. Atma is Brahman. That recognition has to happen. So the total integration of subject-object has to happen. Just recognize the inner self. Don't think that journey is inside. The inner journey is the beginning and it ends up in the totality. Then only you can get into Purnatva, not otherwise. You have to recognize Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am Purna, and Sarvam Khalida Brahma. All this is totality. Totality is Brahman. That recognition has to happen. Both recognition has to happen. Then only you'll become Purna, the totality. So then you'll recognize that all that is there is Brahman, myself, the mountain, the river, the plants, the animals. There's none other than me. I am this whole. I am Purna. That recognition has to happen. That's called Purnatva. So in that Purnatva, there's complete satisfaction, the bliss, this feeling of limitation is gone. And the person becomes Jivan Mukta, liberated or enlightened, has attained Nirvana. The recognition of the totality as one reality is called Advaita Dnana, non-duality. The duality will continue, but you are not affected with the duality. So there's a beautiful shloka in Atharva Veda. Om Dyauhu Shanti Antariksham Shanti, Prativi Shanti, Apa Shanti, Voshadaya Shanti, Sarvam Shanti, Shantireva Shanti, Sama Shantir Edi, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The all Upanishads will end up with a prayer for peace. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The three Shantis are the Shanti from the physical world called Adi Bhautika, the Shanti from the metaphysical world called Adi Daivika, the Shanti from the body, mind and intellect called Adi Adhyatmika. So I want peace in all these domains. Bhautika, Adi Daivika, Adhyatmika. Just understand. Can you control the external nature? Adi Bhautika can you control? Adi Daivika can you control? Adhyatmika can you control? Because these are all part of nature. So there's no expectation possible from all these three. Peace is not possible to expect. This peace, Shanti, is beyond these Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, Adhyatmika, which is your own nature, Atma, the self. The peace which transcends the body, mind and intellect. It's called Para Shanti. Seeking is Para Shanti. So when you have Para Shanti, Dev Shanti, the space gives bliss. The peace is there in the sky. The peace is there in space. The peace is in earth. Peace is water. Peace is in plant. Everywhere there's peace. If there's inner, if you are peaceful, everything is peaceful. If you are disturbed, everything is disturbed. Dev Shanti means peace in the sky. Antariksha Shanti, the space is peace. Prathivi Shanti, earth is peace. How can they be peaceful? Only your inner peace you see, recognize everywhere. So there's a total integration of Jivatma and Paramatma, the non-duality where you recognize the peace or bliss is the soul nature as the existence. The existence is peace, existence is bliss. Please understand this peace is not a temporary peace of the mind. So when I get something, I'll get peace. It's not that. This peace is peace beyond the mind. When the mind becomes no mind, that is the peace. That can happen when you get Atma Dhyana. That's being one with the totality. A salt doll was feeling disturbed. It started looking for happiness and it goes to the ocean. And when it goes to the ocean, it finds the salt doll is no longer there. When Jivatma searches for Paramatma, merges with Paramatma, there is total peace. It's bliss. That's called Atma Dhyana. So coming to our celebration, what do we celebrate? When you are blissful. For a Jnani, every moment of life is peaceful. Every moment of life is blissful. Good thing or bad thing, happiness or unhappy, sorrow, they don't disturb him. For him, every moment of life is a celebration. And he lives in the eternal now. And a person who is not realized, he always lives in the future or the past. He misses the present moment. He misses the bliss. For a Jnani, when he does the work, he'll get fully involved in the work. Work becomes a joy. Work becomes a worship. For a Jnani, work becomes a hardship. Even the work gets converted into puja for a Jnani, and work becomes a hardship for a Jnani. So all aspects of life we can celebrate. For a Jnani, everything is self. When he sees the flower, there's a bliss of the self. When he sees the flower, when he drinks a cup of coffee, bliss of the self. When there's a pain in the body, bliss of the self he is recognizing. So every aspect, touch, sound, smell, taste in the external world translates into bliss of the self. So always he goes back to bliss of the self. He is established full in the bliss. And that is real celebration. Celebration of festival of self-awareness. In a festival, we burst crackers. In the festival of awareness, we don't burst crackers. One who is really celebrating festival of awareness, his eyes will be shining with light. The stars can be seen. The light will radiate from his eyes. The light of happiness, light of bliss will radiate. You don't need to burst crackers. You don't need to light lamp. The light of the self, Atma Jyoti, will shine through his eyes. You don't need to invite friends for you. For a festival, we celebrate invites, meet friends. Okay? When the whole existence becomes your friend, the totality becomes your friend. Where is the friend? You are celebrating the whole universe. The universe is your friend. That is your celebration. The totality of existence is your friend. That's what is called Sarvam Khalu Ida Brahma, all this is Brahman. Then you recognize Vasudeva Kutumbam, whole universe is my family. River is your friend, the sky is your friend, all animals, all living beings are friend. You celebrate with your totality. When you in a festival, you not just celebrate with few friends, your totality of existence you celebrate. You don't distribute sweets. Your presence will be sweet. Your presence will be, people will be feel your presence. In your presence, people will feel the joy and peace. You don't need to give sweet. You are the sweetness. Your voice will be sweet. The words which you speak will bring peace to others. So that is the celebration of festival of self-awareness. Hope all of you enjoyed the festival of self-awareness, and all of you, I wish all of you celebration, a grand
Namaste.
celebration of
Hari Om.
festival of celebration.
Lokaha
With that, I'll
samastaha
conclude my
sukhino
talk.
bhavantu.